We are already starting week 2 of 2022. Will this be the year we end the pandemic, as the World Health Organization optimistically says we can? On a personal level, will this be the year you do that thing you've always wanted to, but never pursued? Right now, the possibilities are endless, right? Much is out of your hands, but far more of what becomes reality depends on the actions you take in your life, in your family, in your community, nationally. We encourage you to make bold moves on this new day, in this new year. Bold moves to step into the reality you've always envisioned for yourself. You saw the montage, so you know you're watching Jamaica Magazine, and I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. You'll like today's show, so do me a favor. Please keep watching.
What a way you're full of our roots and culture. That was in Jamaica 60. Jamaica 60? What a piece of news, Miss Matty. I feel like my heart going bust up.
Just in, the island of Jamaica is on the verge of celebrating its 60th year of independence.
A whole way of celebrating it. They say the people them, you know, them come here, you know. But you see, when our people decide, say the other people them free paper, burn up, them say if it's war, start it, whatever. We all collect medal pants for it, you know.
Medal.
Amount of tongue we give them, you know.
The celebrations are slated to begin on January 1st, 2022. Organized by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. We have more in this report.
I am on site and planning activities are ablaze. Persons are advised to download the Reggae Jamaica app to know what it pre.
Why pre?
Activities for the Jamaica 60 celebration.
I forgot to download the app to get the updates then.
Getting the facts is always a good move, no matter what you're dealing with. That's certainly true and potentially life-saving if what you're dealing with are hazardous substances. We have that conversation with Maxine Russell, Director General of the Hazardous Substances Regulation Authority. Next.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm your host, Enthros Campbell. Our discussion today will look at the role of an important agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority, HSRA. To provide us with the facts is Director General of the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority, Maxine Russell. Miss Maxine Russell, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Good. What is the function? Let's start there. What's the function of the HSRA?
The HSRA, Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority, is mandated to monitor and regulate ionizing radiation in terms of the equipment and the sources that are utilized in the fields. And we do that for the protection of the people, property and environment from harmful effects of this type of radiation.
Mm-hmm. Ionizing radiation, what is that?
Yes. Well, in physics and chemistry, we know that there are some elements that are able to spontaneously decay. And when they do that, they emit a kind of energy that is able also to impact other materials and emit and evict electrons. And so this energy can be very useful in certain industries, definitely, but it also has the possibility of being deleterious to the health of persons. So our job really is to ensure that it is used in a safe way and it always provides security and safety for the users and those who are receiving the benefits of it.
So give us some examples of ionizing radiation.
Okay, so when you go to the doctor, for example, you have an ailment and the doctor wants to make a diagnosis. He cannot see through you by his physical eyes, but he can use X-rays to do that and be able to look at your bone structure and he will be able to determine any anomalies or any sort of dysfunction and be able to do a proper diagnosis. So if you think about it, X-ray equipment, CT scanners, mammography units, these all apply the principles of using ionizing radiation.
Right. So how do you go about your job now in regulating these different departments or business places, or yes, how do you go about regulating them?
Yes. Well, we are actually established, the HSRA that is, under what is called the Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection Act
Nuclear
of
sound like something
2015.
very problematic, right?
Right.
Yes.
And we have a regulations that guides the application or the implementation of the act.
Yes.
And that act and regulation speaks to what we call authorization of users. So persons are out there using this right now, and they were using it for many years before we came along, definitely.
Yes.
And our mandate and role really is to get them under what is called our regulatory control by a process of authorization. So how we do this then is that we classify their facility based upon the items that they do have, the equipment and the sources. We classify them either as needing a license or a registration, and in some cases they may even need a permit.
Right. Why was there a need to have such a body?
Well, ionizing radiation is used globally, and there's actually an international body that promotes the safe use of these kinds of equipment and sources, and it's called the International Atomic Energy Agency. Jamaica is a member state of that agency, and because of that we are signatory to the agreements that will facilitate such safe use. So we have been a member since 1965. However, just recently now, they have established a protocol that is international protocol whereby all countries are required to have a body, an independent, competent body that is able to regulate this kind of material.
Right.
And because we are a member state, we had to, facilitate compliance under the agreements that we are signatory to.
But we were not having any kind of negative impact before.
No. For the most part, we have been very safe, and we really give thanks for that. We do have trained professionals in the industry, especially when you look in the medical industry. So you find you will have radiologists, radiation therapists, radiation oncologists. All of these use these equipment in diagnostic radiology. They use it in radiotherapy, etc. So these persons are very well trained, and they are very well aware of how to utilize this type of energy in a safe way. Then you have on the other side the industrial facilities, and they also have trained personnel. So over the years we have been able to maintain a high level of safety.
Yes.
But in order to ensure that this continues to be so, the HSRA is here.
Okay, so I was just about to ask you, what is it that you're preventing or you're trying to make better, to improve? So it's just to ensure that we remain safe while we're using these what do you call them now?
Ionizing radiation equipment and sources. And additionally, we want to, Jamaica, when we think about Vision 2030, we want to be at the cutting edge of technology as well. And so we are hoping that with our presence, people will feel at liberty to advance and to take advantage of the cutting edge technology that is out there. And they will feel safe doing so, because they would have established certain procedures internally in their businesses to facilitate such safe use.
About how many entities you're talking about? Like what number do you have?
We have assessed the situation to be about 420 persons right now. It may get a little larger as we go on, but this is the initial
Only
number.
400?
Yes, I mean, we are a small country, and we are a part of the Caribbean, and but we do use very high-tech equipment, even in radiotherapy.
Right.
We have some of the latest linear accelerators in that is comparable to any first world country.
Right.
So and not only that, we have a research reactor that is located in Jamaica as well.
Tell us about that.
Well, there is at the university a research reactor where they have a slow poke, what is called a slow poke reactor, to do research and carry on academic work. And so we are really one of the leaders in the Caribbean as well, because we are actually the first Caribbean country to have a regulatory body.
Very good.
Yes, we are the first. And so we are leaders, and and benchmarking this sort of regulatory activity.
Right. So the entities we're talking about are those that do X-rays, those that do what other what?
Well, radiation
service?
therapy, as I mentioned before,
Right.
which really is when persons have cancer and they need to be treated,
Yes.
so they would do that. Brachytherapy is also part of that kind of treatment.
Yes.
And as I said, mammography would be used in that, would fall into that category as well. In the industrial facilities as well, they use, for example, bottling plants.
Yes.
They may use what is called nuclear gauges in order to determine the level of the liquid in the bottle, and to ensure that it is always at the right level while they are on the production line.
Yes.
When you look in the construction industry, they will utilize nuclear gauges to test the moisture in the soil so that they can ensure that their construction is appropriately aligned to their specifications.
Yes.
So it is widely used. Many people may not know that it is widely used there, but we do have a number of persons who utilize this type of technology.
Yes. This is such a very important discussion, but we'll take a break now and come back with more information for you. Stay with us. Welcome back to Get the Facts. Our discussion continues with the Director General of the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority, Maxine Russell. Now, let's talk about the requirements that the entities would have to meet to be authorized.
Well, when persons want to become authorized, they will have to submit an application form, so that starts it. And we also want to ascertain that the persons are fit and proper to operate this type of facility. So we require the completion of what we call a fit and proper declaration form. And there are supporting documents that are required to support the fact that they have trained staff, and there is monitoring of their staff in terms of the exposure levels that are there, and that they have the equipment is working and functioning as it ought to. And that's very important, isn't it?
So you have to check the equipment, check the staff, check the people who are leading the entity.
Yes.
How many persons do you have working with?
Okay, well, we do have what we call qualified experts. And these experts are persons who will go out in the field and do the quality assurance on the equipment itself. So our inspectors go to the facility as well during this process of authorization, and they will see to it that everything is in place in accordance with what the applicants have submitted to us. But the qualified experts are the ones who actually check the equipment and ensure that it is functioning in the proper way.
Yes, definitely. So at the end of the process, which will take about how long?
It usually takes about 30 working days for persons to send in their applications, have it processed, and it does require us taking that application to our board. We are governed by a board, and we have a technical committee that looks at these applications and ensure that they are brought in to alignment and with the requirements of the agency. And once that is done, we will be able to issue that authorization to the applicant.
Yes, which is called a certificate of registration.
Yes, we have certificates of registration, and we also have licenses. And so there are also permits. And just to one important fact I'd like to point out, that because of this new regulations, persons who are importing such material, whether ionizing radiation equipment or sources, are required to have an import permit from the HSRA. And the only way you can get an import permit is when you are fully authorized by us. Yes.
Okay. So you have 400 such entities, more or less. About how many of them are already certified?
Well, so far we have I think we have about 15 or 16% of them that are authorized.
Okay.
And this is over really a 1-year period, because we really started doing the actual implementation after we received the regulations in 2019. And we really want to encourage persons to come on board, because there is much to be gained by being on board, because if you are authorized, it would mean that you would give confidence to your clients that you are, and that your facility has been checked out by the authority, and the seal of approval is on your facility.
Right. So how compliant are the entities that are already now certified?
I believe that they are, I would say, about 90% compliant,
Excellent.
most of them,
Yes,
right?
yes.
What we do, because it's a new process, we are giving some hand-holding support to our facilities and our entities. They are not, we have to make them aware of the requirements and help them to see how they can comply. And they have been very eager, especially those who are really in the business of providing good service to their clients and importing some of these materials. They're eager to be compliant as well.
Right, so what happens if people are not compliant? Do you act?
Yes, our Act actually gives us enforcement powers, and this could even reach to the point where equipment can be seized and persons can be brought to court in order to answer to such charges as if they're found to be in breach of the requirements. At this time, we are really trying to get everyone in and help them to comply and to operate in a safe manner.
Yes. Some of the areas or some of the aspects of the business that you would check would be like disposal and when they're using it, what are the things that they should have in place? Are these some of the things that you check on?
Yes, we do, because at this time you have persons who perhaps they might be using an X-ray equipment and they want to change really the source of the energy, which is the X-ray tube, and we would recommend that even this disused X-ray tube is kept in a safe place until a proper disposal is facilitated. The HSRA is currently looking at these disposal options that we have, and as soon as we have finalized those, then we will incorporate them with our clients.
So I have one of these entities, and what are the benefits for me? Why should I
Well,
be
well, the benefit really is that you will be able to meet the requirements, and it's international requirements. Remember that even as we think about the health tourism, you can imagine that if you have a facility that is said to be authorized by your local body, then persons who come into the country, they will feel free to come to your facility. Right. And then after a while, persons are definitely going to look for the seal of approval from the HSRA when they go to visit these facilities. So it is in their best interest to come on board as quickly as possible.
Right. Any final words for our viewers?
Well, the word for our viewers is that ionizing radiation, when you hear it, sometimes it seems a bit intimidating, nuclear technology and so forth, but it's something that we have been utilizing for many years and safely doing so as well. And so for the viewers, I just want them to recognize the importance of this kind of technology and know that we as the HSRA are here to ensure that it is always used safely and it is safe for the environment and the persons who utilize it.
Thank you so very much for coming today to talk to us about this very important topic, and I'm sure we'll have some further discussions in the future.
You're most welcome. Thank you again for having me.
You're welcome. This has been Get the Facts, and our guest was Director General of the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority, Maxine Russell. Thank you so very much for watching, and see you next time with more useful information. I'm Rose Campbell. Take good care.
We have to invest in the security service and the security forces.
And firm actions were taken in 2021 to reinforce national security measures. Keep watching Jamaica Magazine on this station for a review of major achievements of the Ministry of National Security.
School's in for a second week as of tomorrow. Whether you have a child in school now or it's something still a few years away, it's a good time to map out how you will finance the next steps of your child's education. Keep watching to get some tips.
Hello everyone, I'm Xavier Campbell, an educator, financier and entrepreneur. Education is very important to our development and can take years to achieve the highest level. It is also very costly and some persons will have a difficult time finding the money up front, especially in the absence of careful financial planning. So, within the next few minutes, I want to share a few steps that will guide your approach to financing your child or children's education. Let's start with, when should we begin that financial planning? According to the Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Although there is no perfect time to begin planning for your child's tertiary education, starting as early as possible is the best way to ensure you are prepared financially and avoid the common pitfalls. Having a step-by-step plan is the best way to ensure that you are able to finance your child's education without sacrificing your personal financial plan. There are several things to consider when planning for your child or children's education. However, most notable among them are parents must identify the future costs of tertiary education and have a clear sum in mind of what their target will be. Then work their way backwards to present and see how best they can earn to realize the future goal. A clear financial plan should be put in place either by the parents themselves or with the help of a professional financial planner. The discipline is what follows the plan to ensure that all financial objectives are being taken care of in terms of allocations and meeting the various timelines set out by the plan. Once all incomes and expenditures remain in accordance to the plan, by the time your child reaches maturity, their tertiary education funding would have been readily available to offset the costs associated. Now your options could be savings or investments. Both are good, but let's look at them closely. There are basically two ways to make money. One, you work for money. Two, your money works for you. So savings is the process of putting aside a portion of your income for future use. In this case, we're talking about education. So if you're going to save, you need to put aside some of your income to ensure that you're able to offset the cost of your education in the future. While investment is you putting money aside that will generally earn interest over the period of time that you put it aside for. Therefore, having a plan inclusive of savings and investments can put parents in a better position to offset the future expenses of education. Firstly, if you're not financially literate, I would advise you to seek assistance from a professional financial advisor to ensure you are getting qualified advice that will help you achieve your goal. Here are the 5 steps of planning your child's education. Step 1, set target date. Step 2, find current cost of the education. Step 3, find target amount. Step 4, estimate the returns you can generate. And step 5, calculate the monthly contribution. Here are some additional things to consider. A partner plan is a very good thing. Creating a savings account and/or fixed deposit. Invest in one of the various educational products available from a preferred financial institution. And maintain your discipline while ensuring that the projected amounts are allocated at the appropriate time to achieve your financial goal effectively and efficiently. One of the most common mistakes that parents make is that they think that they need this large lump sum. But as the Jamaican proverbs go, every make a muckle, so therefore they can start small and then build onwards. Now another mistake that they normally would make is the fact that they think that savings alone would help in terms of offsetting the costs in the future. what I would recommend is for them to use a culmination of both savings and investments in order to achieve their financial goal. So the first disadvantage I want to speak about is the inability to set financial goals. So you not being able to set goals will also lead to you being demotivated and lack the knowledge that is required to achieve that goal. And as a result of that demotivation and that lack of knowledge that is required, then there is no direction. So we consider it to be a lack of direction, right? And if there's a lack of direction, then what will happen is that poor financial outcomes will be the result of that. In concluding, planning for your child or children's education is not just dependent on the numbers. Rather, it's a combination of several factors, namely social, personal beliefs, religious, your way of approaching, and general outlook at life. However, the cost of education on a rise. Parents are looking at various investment vehicles to secure their child or children's future. Judicious planning for your children's future is essential, and empowering them with an education plan is a wise thing to do. Start to reap maximum benefits very early. Create a sustainable future for them to bloom in.
Getting the first dose is not an excuse not to wear the mask, not to social distance or physical distance, not to sanitize. Getting the first dose is not justification for deciding that you're going to resume the parties, the gatherings beyond the limits that have been established. The journey is to observe the protocols, take the second dose when it is time, and then we will resume some semblance of normalcy once we achieve herd immunity.
All good things don't actually have to end, but this one does. Actually, it's more of a pause. Because as all regulars know, Jamaica Magazine is an everyday affair. So as we wrap this show, you can look forward to another one tomorrow and the other tomorrows to come. If you can't wait, there is content galore on JIS's website and YouTube channel. Connections are being made on our social media pages, so pay them a visit if you can. Remember, our Year in Review series continues tomorrow with the Ministry of National Security. Until then, I'm Adrian Atkinson, signing off and saying thank you. On behalf of the entire production crew, see you next time.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.